Melbourne Carrier 2, Melbourne Carrier 2, Bob Gar on 14, do you receive?
Melbourne Carrier, back to Bob Gay. Loud and clear, Dave, go ahead.
Yep, we're just sitting outside. We've got a good 1.5 metre swell, 20 knots of wind on the beam, and just a slight easterly set. Nothing that should bother you.
Yeah, okay, Dave, that doesn't sound too bad. We'll line up and I'll give you a call. Just keeping out to the west, I believe.
That's right, we'll sit on your starboard side coming in and just watch that side of it.
Okay, I'll give you a call when we're lined up.
Roger.
Each crossing of the multi-million-dollar cement carriers and of other large vessels or barges is conducted with close cooperation between the captain and the harbour master.
3.5 cables.
167.
2.5 metres.
River leads.
Inshore fishing vessels can't afford this kind of thing, but most, if not all, of the updated information gathered for the large vessels is freely available. Today, many boats regularly use a fax machine for the latest weather maps. Why not for bar charts too?
1.8 metres.
And tomorrow, if some recent developments are put in place, it's possible that an onboard computer could give you direct access via the internet to the latest bar charts. And to absolutely up-to-the-minute data on river flow and velocity, swell height, duration, and direction. The state of the tide, wind speed and direction, and perhaps to more sophisticated chart datum data. All of which may sound like science fiction, but there are other things that you can deal with right now. For example, while it'll be good for you as a skipper to know what the water's doing in greater detail than ever before, that won't change what the water does to your boat.
Inherent stability derives from the buoyancy of the boat, and that's one factor, and that's a large quantity, against the weight and the weight distribution in the boat. And stability arises from the difference between those two quantities. And it's rather like a profit and loss account in a farmer, in that they're both very large quantities, but the differences can be small. And if you change the distribution of buoyancy, then you can be in a loss situation. And if you change the distribution of weight, you can be in a loss situation very quickly.
John Harry is a naval architect with long-standing connections with the fishing industry. He sees things from a boat designer's point of view.
When you're crossing a bar, it's one of the few occasions when you're going in short-crested, steep waves, and in my mind there are two different types of problem. One is when the wave is coming directly behind the boat, and it catches the boat, and the wave passes through the boat, but as it does so, the wave at the top is actually travelling faster than the wave ahead of it in the trough. And that tends to drive the boat upwards, and the bows will actually tend to plunge, and it's quite easy to lose your windscreens on the front of the wheelhouse and get water in that way. Or when the boat has stalled, the wave can actually overtake and come crashing over the stern and actually bury it. Very sudden and dramatic, and if the boat is not very structurally seaworthy, a lot of damage can be done, and I've experienced it myself. Another way in which a boat can be lost on the bar is by broaching. Inherently, a boat will try and sit level on the water. But if it's actually on a sloping wave, parallel to the wave, it'll actually try and sit like that. There is nothing that the buoyancy distribution will do to try and correct that. It's naturally like that. In other words, it will take up the same slope as the wave, and there'll be no righting moment or buoyant moment trying to bring it back up. It'll naturally take this position up. But because the wave is coming in and rolls the boat quite quickly, there is a momentum effect. And as the roll captures the boat and there's nothing to restrain it, the energy imparted to the vessel by the wave will tend to drive the boat over, and the momentum will take it right over.
Older and smaller boats don't have the heavy gantries and the net rollers mounted high that more modern and converted vessels have. The higher the weight distribution on a boat, the greater the momentum effect. And of course, no skipper deliberately travels parallel to big waves.
What tends to happen is that the wave will come from behind, the wave is travelling quickly past the boat, and the rudder, which isn't actually on this model at the moment, will be actually in water that's travelling with the boat. And you lose steerage because there's no flow of water over the rudder. If there is a loss of control, and it's probable that you can get a loss of control in this situation, what tends to happen is the boat takes up an angle to the direction of the wave, and then because the wave is travelling faster at the transom than it is the bow, the boat will actually start to roll. If the side doors are open or the windows are weak and sliding, then the superstructure will flood. If the hatches are open on the deck, they will permit flooding and water will come tumbling on board. And it doesn't take very much water to hold the boat in that attitude. Perhaps 2 cubic meters trapped in the hold or 2 cubic meters trapped in the wheelhouse will keep that boat over until the next wave takes the boat right over.
So, just how much is 2 cubic meters? Well, take a Dolav, and first find out how much it weighs, empty. Give or take 50 kilograms. A Dolav's volume is something over half a cubic meter. Right, bring on the water. "635 kilograms minus 50 means that a Dolav holds well over half a ton of water. Here's the arithmetic. 2 cubic meters weighs well over 2 tons, and that means that 4 Dolavs worth of water is all it takes to hold your vessel over, waiting for the next wave. If nothing else, that means you should put lids on any empty Dolavs on deck or turn them upside down before crossing the bar.
And that, to my mind, leads to the important points that survival is one of preparation. Your boat has got to be watertight. The more watertight it is, the more likely you are going to survive such an incident. The whole deck has to be watertight. It's better if your wheelhouse can be watertight as well, but that is expense. The doors should be on the centre line at the back of the wheelhouse. You should move away from having side doors because they're the first things we'll take up water when we're rolling. We should have freeing ports around the bulwarks of the boat to ensure that if water does come on board, it can be freed very quickly, in less than a minute. So preparation in terms of the watertightness can be done in port well before you go to sea. But I think there's also preparation in attitude. That is, you've got to realise when you're coming in, you're likely to be deeper in the water, you're moving more sluggishly, you may be tired and making maybe irrational decisions, and the more prepared your boat is, it'll be more forgiving if you make decisional mistakes at that point. Because rolling and capsizing is a very sudden event, and People do not have time to get on a life jacket. They don't have time to get to a radio. It is over in a few seconds. And if you are not prepared, you're going to be a casualty. It means that your ship husbandry has got to be first class. It means that your watertight boundaries, your deck and your wheelhouse have got to be as watertight as possible, because they're your life belt. They're the thing that's going to keep you alive, if not wet. They'll keep you alive.